Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
So a massive warm welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. And today I've got a special shout out for somebody calling themselves Passionate for Climate. What a great username that is. It's got a ring to it, hasn't it? And certainly perfect for today's increasing awareness around sustainability and the environment that we all live in, what we can do better. But hey, I'm rambling. Quick, Neil, get back on track. So the username Passionate for Climate left a review for this podcast, a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. And they just said, love it. Great banter, great guests, overall fabulous. Highly recommend a listen. So whoever you are, passionate for climate, I stand up for my podcasting chair and salute you, and cannot thank you enough for taking the time to just leave that quick rating review. I know you're listening on a smartphone device or something now, and just simply hitting a rating or review can help this show do battle against those infamous artificial intelligence algorithms that ultimately decide which show will appear on people's feeds and which don't, and bring new people to the community. So, Passionate for Climate, thank you. If you email me, I'll enter you into my draw to win a free copy of my latest book, which is now on Amazon, and it's due out in May. And it's called Tech Talks Innovation. Find out details on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But you didn't come on this podcast just to hear me plugging a book. That's everything that I'm against. So let's get straight on with the show. And just when you think we've covered just about every tech topic you can possibly think of, I'm going to start the week with a little surprise topic, because I have an expert coming on today on non-destructive testing, which is ultimately a way for products to be tested without destroying them. So the company is called Art+Logic, and they've had many projects in this field in which they build software platforms that allow that kind of testing. And they've been around for over 30 years now, so their expertise in innovative software development has actually spread over multiple industries. And specifically today, we're going to talk about the relationship between software and hardware, issues around accessibility on the internet, and all things related to the Internet of Things, and much, much more. So let me take your ears all the way to Pennsylvania so we can speak with Bob Bajoras all about Art+Logic and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Bob. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Oh, thanks for having me on, Neil. My name is Bob Bajoras. I've been in the tech industry for 35 years now. It still surprises me every time I think of that. But I'm currently the president of ArtLogic, which is a custom software development company. I joined the company back in 1999 as their sales manager. But my background is actually in electrical engineering. Prior to ArtLogic, I worked with a company called Kramer Branson for 13 years. And we designed and developed ultrasonic inspection equipment for industrial applications. And that's how I actually met ArtLogic. Kramer was a world leader in ultrasonic instrumentation and testing machines. And in 1997, I found myself managing what they called their custom small systems group. And we were developing a system at the time to inspect aftermarket diesel pistons. These are pistons that would go in Cummins diesel engines. So rather than developing a dedicated software application that just tested pistons, I wanted to create a software product that could be used, for many more applications beyond that immediate need. So I wrote up a spec, and since our in-house team was busy developing new instrumentation, I had the opportunity to bring ArtLogic in to work on the software. And it's been a valuable experience over the years, having been on the other side of the table, as a client to ArtLogic. But 2 years later, one of the founders left ArtLogic. They decided that they had such a good time starting up ArtLogic that they wanted to give it a go again. So I contacted ArtLogic about filling his role, and to my good fortune, I've been here ever since.
And you're also an expert on non-destructive testing, which I believe is a way for products to be tested without destroying them, which can only be a great thing. But for people listening that are new to that world, can you tell me a little bit more about exactly what that is and maybe offer a use case just to get everybody listening on the same page?
Yeah, sure. So that's what I did at Krautkramer. I learned all about non-destructive testing, or NDT as it's shortened, and specifically about ultrasonic testing. But NDT actually includes a number of different disciplines. There's visual inspection, which is the most basic, as you can imagine what visual inspection is, and there's ultrasonic, of course. There's eddy current, there's mag particle testing, there's dye penetrant testing. Of course, there's X-ray, radiography. But it's the industrial ultrasonic inspections where I'm the most familiar because of my time at Krautkramer. And personally, I think it's the most interesting, but that's a bit of a biased, opinion. So NDT, as the name suggests, it's a method of verifying the quality or integrity of a manufactured component without damaging the component, in any way. So that might sound not so difficult at first, but when you consider your goal might be to determine if there's something undesirable inside that component, that you're inspecting, then it gets a little more challenging. How do you look inside something without cutting it open? X-ray might be the first thing that you'd think of. A lot of us are familiar with X-rays, at the dentist's office or medical X-rays, and we know that they can look inside things. But if you're familiar with how what happens at the dentist's office, they put the lead apron on you before you you get your X-rays. So there's safety issues with X-rays, and so that's where ultrasonics comes in. Like medical ultrasound, industrial ultrasonic testing uses low energy sound waves. It's intrinsically safe. Sound is, the way it works is sound is coupled into this test piece using a transducer that converts a high voltage electrical pulse into a mechanical vibration. It's referred to as a piezoelectric crystal. Typically, it's a 2 to 15 megahertz, frequency, which is ultrasonic. You can't hear it. Sound will travel through that test piece until it encounters a change in acoustic impedance. Usually it's a change in material density. So when that happens, a portion of the sound wave is reflected back to the transducer, where it's converted back into electrical energy, where it can then be displayed on like an oscilloscope style display. And the blips that you see on those displays are referred to as echoes, because that's what they are. So typically we know where those echoes are supposed to be. For example, when the sound reaches the back side of the part, it'll reflect back from that point. So any echo that appears in front of the back wall, must be coming from something inside the part. It could be an air gap, a crack, any number of, of things. But we know that it's something that shouldn't be there. So that application of ultrasonic testing is called flaw detection. You're looking for defects or flaws in the part. However, sometimes it's that back wall echo that we're actually looking for, because ultrasonics can also be used to measure the thickness of a material. By measuring the distance between that original pulse that generated the sound wave and the echo that's returning from the back wall, we can calculate the thickness of that test piece. So you may ask, well, why that's so important. It's important because you're able to measure the thickness of the part without having to access both sides of the part. So as you can imagine, if you're trying to inspect a piece of pipe, and this pipe's installed in a refinery, or it's out in the tundra, and it's carrying oil from the oil field, you can't cut that open and measure the thickness of it. But if you can put that transducer down on the outside of the part, you can measure the thickness of the wall. And we have a client that's using that technique to monitor corrosion inside pipe. So they have this solution that involves permanently installing these sensors. And then these sensors will transmit readings, wall thickness measurements, on a daily basis. And then we wrote software that captures that information. And over time, since we have, a year worth of data potentially, we can monitor how the wall is thinning over time and can determine, sometime in the future when that part may fail. So their customer can then schedule to have that part replaced, before it fails, thereby diverting, a potential, ecological disaster, with oil spilling or other corrosive materials spilling out into the environment.
So ArtLogic then is a software development firm that designs, develops, and delivers these high-level tech solutions for your clients. But I think you mentioned a couple there, but are there any other kind of problems that you're solving for customers and that you could possibly share with us today? And also, what is it that makes you stand out from other solutions out there, do you think?
Sure. Well, in 29 years, we've had the opportunity to solve a lot of different problems, a wide range of industries. Aside from the NDT solutions, we have a long history of working in the professional audio industry. Many of our developers are actually musicians, and like I'm able to bring that familiarity of NDT to my projects. They're able to bring that same familiarity with the music industry to those projects. Plus, they're just amazingly creative people. Musicians are, musicians and programmers just go hand in hand. It's that creativity. Just it's critical to both of those careers. But in many cases, however, we're not domain experts. We're experts in software development. That's what we bring to the table. So we rely on our clients to be experts in their domain. So they'll come to us with a problem that they're trying to solve. They'll bring that problem to us and explain how they think it can be solved. So our job is to just listen to it. Listen to them to explain, what it is that they want to do. And then we ask questions, because we want to understand not just what they want us to do, but why do they want us to do it? And why is it that what they're describing to us is even a problem in the first place? Yeah. It's only then that we can start presenting our thoughts on how we can solve the problem. And what we often discover is that there's a better solution, but it was a solution that our client never considered because they're not experts in software development. They didn't realize it was a real option. So it's that collaboration of our expertise with their expertise that will often come up with a solution that can work. And another thing that I think that separates us from some other people in the business is that we're technology indifferent. We listen to what our clients want. Together, we mutually agree on what it is that we need to do for them. And then, only then, we allow the requirements to dictate what's the most appropriate technology. We're not trying to, fit the proverbial round peg into a square hole. We really let our clients' needs dictate what's the most important or what's the most appropriate technology. And as far as what kind of problems that we've solved, like I said, in 29 years, it's been a lot of fun. We just to name a few, we've solved problems for automotive auctions. We've developed the operating interface for epitaxy tools. That's a process of manufacturing semiconductors. Lower tech solutions like applications that adjust furniture. We've done digital asset management software for photography. Kind of a cool project we did, an application that was used to tune the engine on superbikes. That was, some pretty fun in the field work that we did there. Acoustic profiling, we've done image recognition for automatically, using cameras to track motion. And if you go way back in time, that is before I was at ArtLogic, we developed software that Disneyland used to program the animatronics for their attractions, such as in the Haunted Mansion. And we also did some digital editing software for Sound Deluxe that won them an Academy Award for technical achievement. So, the list could go on, but it's been a fun 29 years for us.
Fantastic. And in those 29 years, it is easy just to talk about your successes, but something I try and do on this Daily Tech podcast is also look at the story behind a company. So can I ask that you share the inspiration behind ArtLogic and also how you notice something interesting often happens when clients first lay out that problem?
Yeah, so the inspiration of the company is in the name, Art and Logic. The founders looked at programming as more than just a logical solution to a problem. If done right, that solution should be as much about the art as it is about applied logic. So they truly believe that programming done right, is an art form. And that attention to art, I think, helps drive some of the creativity that we bring to the table. And when you couple that creativity with our clients' ideas, the results can be pretty amazing. I can guarantee you that in many cases, the result is going to exceed what either of the parties could have done alone.
And since 1991, Art and Logic has also built this strong reputation for solving tough technical problems that other firms just couldn't tackle. So I've got to ask, what is your secret, do you think?
Sure. Obviously, you need an extremely talented team of players, to pull off some of the projects that we've been fortunate enough and honored to be part of. But the real secret, I think, is just having the courage and the confidence to try. You won't know all the answers to every question at the start of a project. You may not even know every question that will need to be asked, much less answered at the start of the project. But we trust our model, we trust our processes, and most importantly, we trust our people. And because we're confident that we can solve whatever gotchas a project might throw at us, we're also able to gain our clients' trust. And then solving the problem becomes a collaboration. And because it's a collaboration, that's what makes it succeed. It's not just us trying to solve something on our own. It's a collaboration between us and our client. And because our processes also allow for flexibility and change, we'll often end up with a solution that's different from the original target. But it's going to be a better solution for what our client ultimately needs, because the needs of a project evolve over time. So our processes expect that and welcome that. And that's why I think we end up with a solution that is successful, because we allow it to be what our clients ultimately need it to be.
And here we are in 2020, of course, which still feels weird saying out loud, and it's a whole new decade. But I'm curious, how much have you seen tech and how we all approach tech problems change since you started in 1991? Because everything's completely different now, isn't it?
Yeah, wow. The changes that we've seen in technology in 3 decades, where to begin? Yeah. I guess if one thing stands out to me, it's the mobilization of tech and the ubiquity of it. Everyone has access to technology today. It's in our homes, it's at work, regardless of where you work. It's in factories, it's in farming, it's in any service industry you can think of today. And it goes with us. There's applications of technology that didn't exist in 1991 because, it's there with us all the time, wherever we go. And there really isn't any sign that it's slowing down. Sometimes we actually need a break from it. People will go on vacation now to get away from technology. But how we approach tech problems, to me, that hasn't changed that much. Sure, the tools are all different. Processes have been modernized and made more efficient. But the approach to solving problems is the same. As I mentioned earlier, it's about listening, learning, asking the right questions to truly understand what the problem is that the client is trying to solve, or what the problem behind the problem is that they're trying to solve, and then collaborating to find the best possible solution, and then trusting your team and processes to make it happen. That really hasn't changed much in the last 29 years for us.
Now, I also read an interview with you recently about uniting Amazon, Apple, and Google to create a smart home standard. But for anyone that missed that, can you expand on why you think it's so important, and equally, how you really think it is possible?
Sure. As I mentioned in that interview, I think it's important because it's going to stimulate innovation. A common standard is going to promote entry into the market, for not only new products, but it's also going to make it easier for new companies to get into the market, because it's going to lower the cost of entry. You no longer will need to support multiple protocols. And, if anybody has ever tried to develop a product, they know the cost of doing that. And to support multiple protocols, you're essentially creating multiple versions of those products, which just, for some companies, it's just going to be too much of an investment to bother. So lowering the cost of entry is going to get some new players in there. And, new companies are going to bring fresh perspectives that will, encourage innovation. So my hope is that, we'll see new products that not only conform to this new standard, but also offer new capabilities. It could be a big win for consumers. And for anyone who's worried about having to scrap all their existing investments in either the Google universe or the Amazon universe, it's my understanding that the companies have pledged that they will continue to support their existing products. As far as why I believe it's possible, right now I think it's possible because the working group seems to be getting it right so far. Granted, it's still pretty fresh, but they appear to be focusing on finding a common ground between the competing technologies, and then from there, I expect them to start pulling in the strengths of each of those competing protocols. So hopefully, we'll come up with a common standard that's truly the best of all of those worlds. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Hopefully, commercial interests don't get involved too early on, and we start to see, companies vying for, superiority because they're stretching what the standard really says that they should be doing. So we'll see what happens over the next year or so.
And as someone that's passionate about early adopting of technology and enthusiastic about new gadgets and also open to testing beta versions of software, I've got to ask, what is it that excites you at the moment? Especially, you started in 1991, but now we're in 2020, which still feels weird saying it out loud, and a whole new decade. So what excites you right now?
Right. Well, living on the edge, right?
Yeah.
doing this call right now with beta software, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But really, I think the advancements in just conveniently wearable health trackers, that's one area that I just really excited to see where it's going to go. I'm talking about things like watches and rings. Some of the recent advancements have just been amazing. And it's really just getting started, I think. The ability to capture an EKG, for example, that could be a life-saving for some people. Or, a ring that you can wear that monitors vital indicators, while you're sleeping. It can help you make life-altering decisions. This doesn't replace health professionals, obviously. This is all about the ability to capture real-time indicators that will enable us to be proactive about our health. I was actually disappointed that the latest Apple Watch didn't include glucose monitoring. Yeah. It's why I'm holding out. It's one case where I didn't jump on it and get the latest version there, but partly because my wife got one, so I was able to use it to look at my EKG. But I'm holding out for the next round there. The ability to see, for instance, how certain foods affect you 20 minutes after you eat them. It's going to help make personal decisions about diet that will have real consequences. I can imagine, these same devices will have the ability to monitor blood pressure or O2 stats or, any other indicators that, today require trips to your doctor or manual interactions with, sort of clumsy, dedicated monitoring devices. So, and I'm also hoping that the recent acquisition of Fitbit by Google is going to stimulate some more competition for Apple and result in some more innovation. Yeah, that's the one area that that excites me the most, is to see where these wearable health trackers take us.
And what's next for ArtLogic? Is there anything else that you can share with me today? I appreciate there's probably not too much, but are there any teasers you can leave us with, maybe?
Actually, sure. So, ArtLogic was founded as a custom software development company. And, we've always been excited about creating software that interacts with hardware. But about a year ago, we actually acquired a hardware development company so that we could expand into actual hardware development projects. And we've had a few successes, but it's my personal initiative in 2020 to grow custom hardware development services as a vital part of our business. So, we've developed some great relationships with fabricators, and we've had enough small successes that that we're confident that we know we can do it. So it's just a matter now of getting a few more opportunities, and excited about that because, as I mentioned, my background is in hardware design. So it'll be fun to see what we can do with that as a service for the company.
Sounds like you've got an incredibly exciting year ahead. And for anyone listening at the end of this podcast, want to delve a little bit deeper and find out more information about you guys, keep up to speed with any developments that you have throughout the year, can you point them in the best direction of finding you online, and also the best way of contacting your team if they have any questions?
Sure. The best way to learn more about ArtLogic is just to visit our website. It's ArtLogic, all spelled out.com. There's some great case studies there that you can read. And if you want to speak directly with somebody, fill out the contact form, and one of our account managers will contact you and find out what your interests are, and then put you in touch directly with one of our engineering staff, so you can have technical conversations directly with our developers. And if you're a developer and you're interested in a career with ArtLogic, you can apply to take our programming challenge from our careers page on the same site. We'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Well, in over 1,000 interviews on this Daily Tech podcast, I believe you're my first expert on non-destructive testing. And for those reasons alone, I've just genuinely enjoyed chatting with you. I've learned so much today. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time out to come and chat with me. Thanks again, Bob.
Sure, it's been great. Thanks for giving me the time to talk. It's been fun.
Bob is a passionate early adopter and enthusiast, especially around new gadgets and things like that. And I think that really came across in today's conversation. But I kind of guess he has to be wide open and embracing of change when he's actually testing beta versions of software, no matter how new that they are. But I think more than anything, I just loved his story about how his passion has helped him build this strong reputation for solving those tough technical problems that other firms just can't. So a big thank you to Bob for joining me on the podcast today, and of course to each and every one of you for tuning in every single day. And please remember to keep those rating and reviews coming in, and send me a screenshot to techblogwriter@outlook.com to be in with a chance of winning a free copy of my new book, Tech Talks Innovation. So that's it from me though, so a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.